Coming up on this week's episode of TORked, the new Corellia Dailies are here, and you can get some great gear. We've got all of the details, plus we wrap up the Rakgoul Plague and share the week's news with you. All that and more on this week's episode of TORked. It's time for TORked, the Star Wars The Old Republic podcast with unlimited power. My name is Chris, and joining me every single week are our two lovely hosts. Hi there, Nikki.
Hello, Chris.
Hey there, Heather.
Hello there, Chris.
And we shot this episode live on April 23rd for release on, I would say, probably April 25th, I believe is when we're getting these out, about on a Wednesday or Thursday afterwards. And we have a great show lined up for you guys today. So, of course, we got a couple of things we're going to talk about that I think a lot of people who have been following the 1.2 patch and are at endgame content are probably keeping an eye out on. Yes, I'm talking about the Corellia Dailies. We've gotten a chance to play through those, and we got to talk about them. And also, we've got some interesting news coming up towards the latter half of the show. But I think, and also, the Rakgoul Plague is still ravaging the Outer Worlds, and it's about to wrap up, but we'll give you our last thoughts on that. So, what do you say we jump into the new dailies?
Yeah.
Yep. Let's do a Kessel run around those Corellia Dailies.
There you go. You see? That's the nice
There we
one.
go.
All right. So
there's the reference.
As somebody who has not played these yet, I probably need to be set up a little bit what's going on here and what they're about and any other things. So, Nikki, do you want to start?
Yep. The new Corellia Dailies, as Chris said, they're brand new for patch 1.2. They are adding on to the already present Belsavis and Ilum dailies. And by dailies, of course, they're repeatable once a day, and they drop daily commendations. Now, the big difference with the Corellian dailies, other than being on Corellia, is that they have also a different form of currency, which I'll touch on in just a minute. So, if you haven't experienced anything with the Corellia Dailies as of this point, there's two versions of the Corellia Dailies, of course, for the Republic and the Imperial side. It starts off with, of course, your wrapper mission sending you off to Corellia. If you're on the Republic side, you're going to find a news holo terminal. And that's basically going to be your standard news broadcast reporting on what's going on in Corellia. And then you get approached by an SAS agent who's going to really kind of emphasize that you should go there and help out as you have already recently been to Corellia. It's the end of your storyline. And generally speaking, your services are needed again on Corellia. Roughly the same thing on the Imperial side. There is this, I think there's a little bit of a play on words here, Sergeant Carlos, or Careless, depending on how you want to read it, is the initial contact for the Corellian dailies. He will then introduce you to somebody else who will then send you to Corellia. And when you arrive on Corellia, if you're Republic, your contact is Sal Dacron. On the Imperial side, it's General Kanya.
So I guess my question, I suppose, and I wonder, do you find, Nikki, that this has been introduced now as part of the patch as are these missions something that as a regular player that isn't at endgame that I'm going to go get, or are these strictly just for endgame content?
This is something that basically you're going to have to go after. Once you get level 50, you're done your the last planet, which is of course Corellia. You finished that story. This is one of those things you definitely want to come back on or come back to, because even though you finished your story, you might not be quite ready for all the in-game content, but the Corellian dailies are picking up on that daily in-game content that, of course, is also on Belsavis and Ilum. And what this does will actually give you probably some of the best gear in the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heather, did you get a chance to play them?
No, I haven't got a chance to play them yet, but I've been able to look at the what they're about and some of the gear and what their costs are.
I want to get my hands on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if anyone has actually had a chance to go to the supplies section of the respective fleets, if there's a new NPC that's been added, that is the Black Hole and Campaigns vendor. And if you actually have a look at a lot of those gear sets for the Black Hole commendations at the Black Hole vendor, they actually, some of those stats will give even the Rakata, that's the top level rating gear, a run for their money. The only thing that they don't do is have the set bonus that the rating gear does, but the stats themselves are definitely really high end. And even if you don't necessarily have the opportunity to do a lot of rating, by just doing the Corellia Dailies and saving up your Black Hole tokens, you can get yourself outfitted with some really top end gear. And even if you are rating, something to consider might be pieces that don't include the set bonus, like your bracers, your belt, even a weapon or whatever you carry in your offhand, because since they're not part of the set bonus, they might still have higher bonuses than your raid gear.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I've seen some of the costs for the gear, and kind of averaging out how many of these black holes can you get per week. It's about 69 if you do everything, the weekly and all the dailies. So I don't know, for a full set of gear, I saw kind of roughly about 5 weeks.
Okay.
To be able to get everything.
5 weeks of playing daily?
Of doing all the dailies, all the weeklies for these.
That's a bit of a grind.
Well, that is the daily commendations.
Yeah.
They actually go into the Black Hole. That's the weekly mission, which encompasses all the 4 daily missions, the 1 area, and the 1 heroic that's part of the Corellian Dailies. So you're looking at about 6 Black Hole commendations per week. So it is going to take a little bit longer with that.
Yeah.
But the idea behind that is also when you're running all of this stuff, especially if you're doing the cycle of dailies, you can modify all your gear with all purple mods. You can get relics, speeders, earpieces, implants,
schematics.
It's tons of stuff with your daily commendations as well. So you've got a lot of things on top of it that you're going to be getting. So even if it's taking a while to get some of the Black Hole gear, you're still getting rather substantially set up. So just so people kind of have a number to put the Black Hole gear on. If you think about modifiable gear being orange or purple, the number of mods you put in corresponding roughly to your level, the Black Hole gear, its motivation number is 61. That's like I said, that's tops out, and that's just as comparable to Rakata gear, so the top end rating gear. So if you're not going in and running your hard mode Eternity Vault, hard mode Karagas Palace, or the new operation, you can still get that very top level gear, even though you're perhaps only running regular difficulty raids or the hard modes. So there's still that opportunity if, let's say, you're not in the most hardcore guild, you have to pug some of this stuff, and you're not able to get the Rakata, there's still an opportunity for you there to get that top flight gear at the end game.
Yeah, the game seems to be very friendly to that. They're trying to find different ways, if you're not in a large in-rating guild, that you can get other things. It might take a little while, but there's multiple options about how you can get this top level gear.
Yeah, just to put kind of to put that into perspective, because a lot of people say, well, it's going to take forever to grind out those the Black Hole commendations. It will take you some time, but you're not going to have numerous near-death or death experiences as running, for example, Eternity Vault on hard mode and having Garsh eat you 50 times and you're broke because you keep repairing your gear. So I mean, you get the more instant payoff, of course, with the hard mode raids, but again, that can be just as much an exercise in a little bit of frustration if your group continues to wipe versus taking the time to grind out the combinations. So there is a trade-off. It does balance itself out. It's just which route do you prefer?
Well, let me ask you this. So as players who both can see themselves with several characters parked at endgame, Nikki, you're sitting there with several characters parked at endgame, and is this something that you're going to find yourself drawn to play?
I know I'm definitely going to be doing the Corellia Dailies for the black hole combinations. I probably won't be doing the dailies every day.
Yeah.
Just because I am doing the hard mode flashpoints and the raids. But it is something I'm definitely going to come back to just for those black hole combinations because the bracers are better than what I can get with Tinies and Columni, the tier 1 and 2 rating, same with the belt and other little things. So just to squeeze that little bit more out of my stats, I won't necessarily be getting everything from black hole.
Right.
But it's definitely something to pay attention to just if you want to squeeze that little bit extra out of your character.
What say you, Heather?
Yeah. Well, I don't know exactly how much of the hard mode in gaming I'm going to be able to do or how much of I'll have the ability to do. So I'll probably try to focus on some of this black hole mission stuff. I may look at, what can drop in those hard modes and what am I likely to get, or what's a better idea for me to just go for the black hole mission items. Maybe I'll get a couple and then, hope to kind of make the mix and match when I get a chance to hard mode things.
Right.
But I like the, definitely do it for the story as well. But, grinding it out for some of the gear, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts before we move on?
One thing I will just quickly point out is the one advantage to the Corellia Dailies, the biggest one, of course, being the amount of time and the amount of people it takes. Or even if you're just getting into running hard mode flashpoints, those can take an hour or more, especially if you're not doing so well. Maybe the group hasn't got much experience. It can get into multiple hours. Same with raids, multiple hours can be rather time consuming. Whereas the Corellia Dailies, you can probably knock them out in a half an hour, especially if you do have some friends who are playing Tor with you. There's only one heroic 4 mission. And also if you can combine them with the Belsavis and Ilum Dailies, you're still getting one of the in-game currencies. You only need to have 4 people. It's a lot easier. So there's also
everything I've
the
seen
difficulty
says
factor.
It's not that difficult to get through them, and you can pretty much knock them out just with a little bit of time.
There you go. All right. Well, I believe then that's everything we have for the top of the show, correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, then. Let's do the TORked news. And welcome to the TORked news. Our first story in the news section is, of course, a follow-up to the Rakgoul plague outbreak, which will soon be contained, won't it, Heather?
Yes. Attention, citizens. We are happy to announce.
That's pretty good.
Yes. The neutralization of the plague outbreak is on the horizon. One of the things that I did notice as the Rakgoul event continued was we had a new daily every day for about 4 days. So it kind of was expanding as, I was like, oh no, now we found this. Oh no, now it's going here.
Right.
And, they're kind of wrapping it up. They're giving you a date. They are going to continue to offer the shots on the vendors for a little while.
Oh, okay.
So to kind of help alleviate that, because there's definitely going to be some people who are trying to extend that out, I'm imagining, and try to blow you up and go everywhere.
So I was pretty impressed with the way they just, here's the event, boom. And remember before the patch, we're going to have some events coming up, and then boom, here's the event. And then after that, it was oh, by the way, a daily. Oh, by the way, a daily.
Another daily.
For 3 days, right? 4 days.
Yeah, it was another 4.
Pretty impressive.
That got added.
Pretty impressive. I thought that was a nice touch, and it kept the excitement going. And I know we all really thoroughly enjoyed them.
Yes.
I hope we see something like that again soon. Have you guys heard any rumors on that? No?
Not yet, but I imagine they'll probably pop this out again, just suddenly, boom.
Well, now
there's undoubtedly going to be some other Rakgoul stuff going on. I know a lot of the rewards were getting people's attention, whether it was the new crystal, the pet racklings. I've actually got a couple of the red racklings from finding all the debris pieces, and some people, especially for the companion customization option, you could buy a random lockbox that would give you a Rakgoul infected customized look to your companion. And I know there was a few Sith warriors that I happen to know were desperately looking for an infected Malavi Quinn because he rubs a lot of people the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, the one good thing is they may have been random, but they were legacy binding, so you too can have a zombie Kim Val.
Ooh, now
because that is just he needs more creepiness.
Yeah, well, seriously, I mean, Kim Val already kind of looks he looks more like he doesn't quite look like a zombie, but he's got Kim Val kind of has that zombie color to him. Well, sure enough. So, okay, moving on. One story that's come up that definitely popped up on my radar because A, I want this, and I think both of you want this, and B, I'm kind of curious to see if this is going to be our first microtransaction in the game, but character transfers are becoming available to a certain small set of new customers. On February 28th, BioWare launched their Asian Pacific servers. Well, if you were a player, like a player in Australia or New Zealand or Hong Kong or Singapore, and you created a character before Tuesday, February 28th, 2012, you qualify to transfer your character between servers. Now, that's pretty interesting, isn't it? Of course, you have to have bought the game and have it registered.
Yeah.
But obviously what BioWare is doing here is this is something new that they're testing out with a small set of their customer base that they can have a very, that's going to be probably those launches there weren't as big as they were in the English speaking. Well, I mean, Australia. Well, okay. You know what I'm saying. Hong Kong's launch probably wasn't as big as, say, the UK's launch. And I would think that this is a really smart approach from a systems design standpoint to sort of test the system to make sure it works. But it probably means we're all going to see it pretty soon.
Yes, I would very much like that and look forward to that ability coming. Yeah.
The whole not being able to transfer your character thing feels a little old in this day and age.
Yeah, it's definitely getting, not being able to transfer your character is getting a little bit antiquated. Some of the older games still might not offer it, but it's getting pretty common now. And personally, even though all of my characters are on the Ebon Hawk, it's with my guild, I really want to see this just even as someone who has all my characters in the place I want them to, is because there's other people and so many people out there who they either signed up for a guild or they got put on a different server, that sort of thing. They realize their friends are somewhere else. Of course, they want to play with their friends. And just one story I'll tell you, and this is one of the horror stories, so this is, of course, extreme example, but Adramir, who's former member of Jupiter Force, or current member of Jupiter Force, I believe, and member of Lost Management, active in our gaming community, also actively watching the shows, had originally started a guild, I believe, on a European server, or starting with a guild on a European server, worked with this guild, did a lot of work for them, and essentially after a number of months of working with them, they stealth booted him out of the guild and used a website he built for them and everything. And of course, he ends up coming to Lost Management and said, he basically just was really kind of distraught about the experience and wanted to play tour with people he trusts, but he's still got those characters on the other servers. So that's something I know I would really want to see for his sake, because he's put in a lot of work, and I'd like to see him be able to move his characters over so he doesn't have to redo all of that all over again.
Oh yeah,
but
I think
just on another quick note for Adramir, he did get the last laugh because he did build that guild's website. He knew the person who was, I believe, hosting that website, and when it managed to go in and crash it on them.
What were you saying, Heather?
Well, one thing that for character transfers, I was one of those people who leveled up part on one server and then transferred to another, but something that might be a tweak in the system is the whole legacy system. What transfers with you, because there might be somebody with the same legacy name as you, and how exactly does it transfer, and what do you earn? So there's some complications there that I think that are going to make it interesting for them.
How do you suppose that would work? That seems like that could be tricky. I guess they just move it to the other server if they can.
Yeah, you could essentially adopt those characters into your other legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just guessing based on a customer service experience that Alan from TechSnap had, he had a title in the name of one of his characters, and of course they said you're not supposed to do that. So they basically what ended up happening was he had to rename a character. I would guess that they can probably do something different on the developer or customer support end, in that they can, if they're going to move a legacy, if there's one already pre-existing on the server you're moving to, they'll just say, okay, there's a pre-existing legacy with that name. Do you want to change it with, slightly different spelling, or add the accents over one of the letters or something like that, just to cause that differentiation, but still be able to take all of that data and still move it successfully without having too much lost. I think the only thing maybe they might not be able to do is if you, for example, mailed yourself something, you forgot to take it out of the box before you moved your characters. Of course, it's still going to be stuck on the mail server in the other server,
sure, that makes
something
sense.
like that.
Yeah.
But
in other games, it's you can't have any mail. You can't have any mail going to you. Various things that lock you out of being able to transfer, and then it's just deciding what's on you, or do you get to take what's on your bank, or you just load your bags up to the absolute full that you can manage, and then it gets transferred over. So there's a lot of different things they can choose between, but it's going to be a process that's interesting, and kind of look forward to seeing what they're going to do.
Yeah, and I'm glad they're going about it in a very methodical way. And I don't think we'll see it with microtransactions, since they're not testing microtransactions now, because it seems like you'd want to get that tested as well with part of this. So I would bet it won't, but we'll see. You never know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're testing that on the back end.
Oh, it'll definitely come in microtransactions eventually.
Yeah. Nikki, we have a quick note in here about the website. Do you want to say anything about that?
I'll just mention really quickly. If anyone's been to swtor.com recently, you've noticed the website's changed. Courtney Woods, one of the community people at BioWare, is basically went into the forums and just noted that they've completely rebuilt the website. I've gone and basically just poked and prodded everywhere to see what's new, what's different. All the pages look a lot better. Everything looks a little cleaner, more up to date. And the old website still had a lot of holdover from or even early beta and launch. So just generally speaking, it's up to date, it's cleaner, it's got all the relevant information that people need, getting started stuff, so that new players coming into the game have better access, learn how to play, and just generally all around better website.
Nice. Very cool. Last story, Heather, goes to you, and it's about maybe some gear that was potentially a little exploited that had to get pulled, right?
Yeah, there were some Social 10 items that essentially were area effect things, but party instigator, party bomb. But what people could do
Sparkle powder. No.
Go in, blow it up, especially at the beginning of a PvP match or something, and then it kind of lags everybody else out. And so, so there was a bit of uproar about that in the forums that I saw, but they are saying that other rewards are in the works. They're going to come. Maybe these will come back with some alterations.
Some tweaks.
Yeah, some tweaks. They costed 100,000 K.
Okay.
100K to buy them, but if you go to a vendor, then you can get your full refund back. So just sort of sorry guys, didn't quite think it was going to do that.
Another victim of the hated 1.2 patch. I kid. Mondays usually around 5:30 p.m. we're doing something on the live stream, playing through a flashpoint. Like this week, we played through, what was the flashpoint name?
Athos.
Right, we played through that. That was our live gameplay. You probably saw a lot of the visuals from that this week's episode. And we try to do that about a little bit before every episode, so you can join us then. All right, ladies, well, thanks for the great show.
All right, well, that wraps up this week's episode of TORked. Of course, we always want your emails. You can email us, torked@jupiterbroadcasting.com. And, of course, that's TORked with a K. Also, you can tune in live. This show is live over at jblive.tv at Monday evenings, 6 p.m. Pacific. We stream this episode of TORked. Also, we often do live gameplay events before the show. So if you show up about 40 minutes or so ahead of time, you can watch us do that, or maybe even join us and get your face in our show, or at least your character's face in our show. Now, coming up next week, join us for an episode we'll be titling Spectre of the Gun, where we'll delve into the Imperial Agent and Republic Trooper classes and watch the carnage they can cause. So we've been going over them now, and I know a lot of you have been clamoring for those ones, so stay tuned for that. And TORked is out every single Wednesday afternoon over at jupiterbroadcasting.com, but I always like to tell people just check back Thursday mornings because it's almost always out by then. Or you can subscribe to one of the RSS feeds we have over there and get this show weekly when it comes out. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of TORked. I'll see you right back here next week.